Hello and welcome to Seven Rivers Talk. I'm Bob Burrell on Seven Rivers Talk. Happy to be with all of you again here today, and we have a very, very special, shocking kind of topic here, I think, for all of you who are watching and listening. It has to do with our churches, especially here in the La Crosse area, as well as in many other major cities throughout the state of Wisconsin. This is a growing organization that is being funded out of the Chicago activities group called Gamaliel, and what is happening here is that these organizations like AMOS has been infiltrating our churches and borrowing from their programs, adding to them, but the end result is to take some of the church's largesse, its funds, using the church's good reputation to further their own ends. And I have with me today as special guest Joelene Churchill, who is from Milwaukee. She's a lone scout, so to speak, who has done an incredible amount of research over the past 6 and 7 months about Amos and Job and Joshua. And Joelene, we're looking forward to hearing your story about this, which you call a story that's very dangerous for all of us here in the state of Wisconsin. And with her is Dr. Mike Uss, who is a longtime citizen of Onalaska, and he also is very involved in the churches through a program called Christians for United Truth. But first, let's talk about you, Joelene, slightly, but more about Amos and more about what you have been doing relative to the background of Amos, talking about this Interfaith Coalition, it's called. It's got a great name, an Interfaith Coalition here in La Crosse. And it has ties, of course, to the Chicago activities of Gamaliel and so forth. So go ahead and give us an explanation, Joelene.
Well, thank you so much for having me come today and join you on your show. This is a very concerning movement. I've spent several hundred hours researching the National Community Organizing Movement, and folks need to be tuning in with the local AMOS organization. AMOS started, I think, about 2 years ago here in the La Crosse area, but they have branches all over the state operating in our churches. The main organization comes out of Chicago, and that is called the Gamaliel Foundation. Then there is a state organization known as Wisdom, and then there are smaller groups such as AMOS. So it's kind of like a family tree, but there is a huge network, and they're targeting our churches. They're making a lot of money off of our churches, and they are having a major impact in reshaping our public policy.
Thank you very much, Joelene. And you talk about the churches. Maybe Dr. Uss, Mike, you can tell us what churches are involved here in the city of La Crosse.
In the La Crosse area, we have the Cathedral of St. Joseph the Workman, Congregation Sons of Abraham English Lutheran Church, First Presbyterian Church, Franciscan Sisters of Perpetual Adoration, Hope United Church, Onalaska Methodist Church, Our Savior's Lutheran Church, St. Patrick's Catholic Church, Trinity Lutheran Church, Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of La Crosse. All these are members of the AMOS group right now, and for each congregation to join, they charge that congregation $600, and every member of that congregation is counted as a member of AMOS, and then Wisdom, and then Gamaliel, when they're doing their political activities. And
that would be regardless of whether they're even aware of their names being used or their membership being used.
Right.
We have a slide up here of that organization that Dr. Uss and Joelene have talked about. It's a state network, if I'm understanding this right then, focusing on churches, and it's linked to ACORN, the National Community Organization Group out of where? Out of D.C. or out of Chicago?
Chicago is the...
So tell me, what's their best way, or I should say, what is their apparently more successful way of penetrating our churches and getting within the church body and getting acceptance?
All right. Well, these organizations come in and they are working towards stopping poverty, and they push social justice as their guides to getting into the churches, but they are ultimately seeking to transform our churches. They push big government programs, and I don't think that the folks in the pews realize the network. Now with AMOS, again, that local organization is tied in with the Wisconsin organization Wisdom, and then the Chicago organization, the Gamaliel Foundation.
Okay, so but it's probably not just Wisconsin in which this is happening. Is that correct, Joelene?
They're all over the country.
And you know, using poverty and social justice is, you know, wow, that'll grab anybody, won't it, Mike?
Well, what they're really trying to do is just get power to be able to influence the government, to give them money to distribute the way they want it distributed. And usually it's for liberal causes. The whatchamacall, illegal aliens, trying to get them accepted. They're pushing that.
I think they were also I think they're supporting the health reform
Yes.
bill that's going
Right.
through, and then they have programs like the human development programs. What don't you like about that program?
The Campaign for Human Development is a program that the Catholic bishops sponsor, and the Catholic bishops give a tremendous amount of funding towards the community organizing movement. Last year, 2009, the Catholic bishops here in Wisconsin gave over $250,000 to various groups, and your local organization, I believe, received $25,000.
Wow, and within this group itself, that particular money goes toward abortions, rather than supporting abortions, rather than being anti-abortion?
They do not support abortion directly, but all the candidates they support are abortion. They try to keep abortion out so they can attract Catholic parishioners.
One thing I'd like to make clear is that they don't take a position on moral issues, but they drive big government types of policies.
What does this mean for Wisconsin specifically, Joelene, in terms of our state capital? Has this group and this philosophy penetrated the Capitol?
Very much so. They are coming to the Capitol, lobbying, pushing their agenda. They're having a tremendous impact. What's most offensive about this organization is that they come from Chicago, and we in Wisconsin are capable of figuring out solutions to our own problems. We do not need, Chicago with all of its corruption having so much influence in our state. And we're concerned that the organizations are going to make our churches hyper-political. And then the whole funding aspect. How can we stop poverty in Wisconsin if we send a bunch of money down to Chicago? And again, we don't want our values realigned in our churches. We want our churches to be Christ-centered, promoting the sanctity of life and the sanctity of marriage. Promoting marriage is the #1 way of stopping poverty in America.
So actually what you're saying is that the money that goes out of the churches from the collection plates actually might be helping fund anti-Christian values. I'm talking with Dr. Mike Crosse from the city of Onalaska, very, very involved in CUT, Christians for United Truth, and Joelene Churchill, who was here today from Milwaukee, who is heading up a real campaign almost all by herself to bring awareness and education and information to all of us about this group called here in La Crosse, that is AMOS, but throughout the state under other surnames, so to speak. We'll be back in a moment with Joelene Churchill, and we're going to discuss the founder of the National Community Organizing Movement, and that is, of course, Saul Alinsky, and his inspiration to President Obama. I'm Bob Earl. I'll be back in a few moments.